Meeting to order of the Charter Commission, please. If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. I need to practice that a little bit more. So thank you. Before we get to the public comments, I'd like to just give a quick overview of tonight's discussion. Item 036 will be the town attorney discussing his legal review of the revised articles and as you know, that have been approved by the Charter Commission so far, and to answer any questions that the Charter Commission members might have. And that'll be followed by a discussion led by Attorney Mike Levy on proportional ranked choice voting, something that was requested by the members to find out a little bit more about it. But first, I'd like to open it up to public comments for anybody who might be in the audience, who might have a comment. And I'm going to rely on Vice Chair Zato to be my eyes to see if there's anybody in the audience that is making their way to the podium. And I would like to ensure that everybody speaks into the microphones tonight, as some of us are working remotely, and it's difficult to hear. So, Vice Chair Zato, is there anybody for public comments in the audience?
I don't see anybody. No public comments?
Nobody online, Anthony?
No, sir.
All right. So item 036, this will be a discussion with our town attorney, Phil Saucier, regarding his legal review of the revised articles as approved by the Charter Commission. Phil, the floor is all yours.
Great, thank you. And happy to answer any questions. I don't have a lot prepared. Anthony asked me to be here in case you did have questions. I guess I'll just summarize where I've been reviewing. So Anthony has passed along drafts of each of the articles as you've worked on them. So I've sort of provided some comments along the way. So this last round, where you're getting kind of final, I actually did not have anything else to add. Any comments or discussions that had already been incorporated and discussed by the Charter Commission. So I didn't see any red flags. I didn't have any real concerns at this point with what you've come up with. It really is kind of a number of clarifying edits. I think it reads more clearly now. You've updated it to include, more the correct references to state law, which have changed over the years since you first had your first charter, things like that. So it's in good order to me. I mean, obviously, it's going to be up to the voters to decide whether to adopt it. Happy to answer any questions.
And anybody on the commission have any questions for Attorney Saucier?
Yes.
The microphone.
Oh, yes, Dick right here. I have a question.
Sure.
Couple questions, probably a few. You've reviewed all our findings and works, is that correct?
Yeah, the draft that's published with the agenda tonight.
And you've reviewed it fully?
I have.
I got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
On the, I don't know what number it is, but we discussed two items. And one was nepotism and one was term limits. And can you explain to us what we've decided to do and how that would work?
Let me get to that section. And Anthony, maybe you can help me if this is in.
Wait a minute, you're the town attorney. You haven't looked at this and you haven't read this?
Oh, I've read it. I did not draft it though, as you know. So the decisions on what got into the charter, the amendments is for the commission to decide on whether you included certain provisions. Yes.
So Phil, the provisions that Mr. Greta is speaking about would have been in Article 2, except the commission decided not to move forward with term limits or any sort of clause involving nepotism. And you were the one who explained sort of the degrees of nepotism at one point, if you
That's right.
recall.
Yeah, so I didn't see any provision in this proposed ordinance, proposed amendment to the charter. So that's up to the commission to decide if you want to include those kind of things. You do have conflicts of interest, obviously. You have provisions related to conflicts of interest 223. You did include under qualifications that members can hold no office or emolument, which means they're getting paid, or profit under the town charter, and then if they cease to be registered voters or convicted of an A, B, C, or D crime, the office becomes immediately vacant. So those are included. I did see.
The other question, when you're talking about in the member and make a profit, can I be a council member and sell them new police cars? Sell them a new backhoe as a council member? Am I allowed legally to do that? As a businessman, and I'm a council member.
Right. So you're asking just generally, not under your charter provisions.
Right.
There is, so under the conflict of interest requirements statute, which this charter does reference, it's a conflict of interest for a council member to vote on any contract in which they would receive any profit or enumeration for. So obviously that person would have to recuse themselves to the extent that they are involved in a business that's doing business with the town, for example. They would not be able to vote on that agreement.
Would they be able to sell a piece of equipment and not have it go out for bid?
It would have to go through whatever bidding processes that the town has adopted. So some towns do have procurement policies, for example, that require certain things to go out to bid over a certain amount. Some towns don't in Maine. So you'd follow the processes that would apply to anybody.
So I have a quick question on that one since the subject came up, Phil.
Yeah.
And I can actually reference myself, okay? I'm in a
Okay.
position of a possible or at least perceived conflict. And I chose to publicly recuse myself. As the rules say, you need to get permission from the council to recuse yourself. And then I wish to speak, not as a counselor, but as suggested by the chair, go out in the audience and speak as a citizen. Just because you're a town councilor does not mean that you can't express your own personal opinion under circumstances, does it?
That's correct. You'd have to,
Okay.
in that situation, if there's a conflict, then what you need to do is, and it sounds like what you're describing happened, you have to step off the dais, right? Remove yourself, go around to the other side, make it clear in what position you're speaking for everyone to understand.
Right. I just
So-
asked that question because I had been told that I couldn't do that. And
Yeah, and I
We
think
will
it's
be-
like, should be limited in certain cases, right? So obviously
Yeah.
you're elected as a counselor, you have opinions on things and business that's in front of the council. It's really when that would happen is if you have a conflict of interest, as that term is defined under state law, that you would recuse yourself and step down.
okay, but you could still go and make a personal, stand aside from the council table and express your own personal opinion on the matter from the audience or the podium.
Yes, if you're speaking your own personal capacity, again, it's typically when
Yeah.
you have a conflict of interest. You wouldn't
Thank
do
you.
it in the normal course. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, may I interrupt just for a moment, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a reminder to the commission, we're actually here to talk about the town charter and
Right.
what is in the articles that you have reviewed and revised and voted on. So if we could just please sort of keep the discussion to the business at hand.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We were told a long time ago when we first started this that we'd have full opportunity to speak with the town attorney about any questions we wanted, whatever we had. And I'm sick and tired of this guy over here running this show. I've had enough of him. It's not right. This is the committee. He's influenced this committee. The town council has influence this committee, and what's done in this committee has been very wrong. Very, very wrong. It should be that we have the town clerk here. We don't need that town manager here. The town clerk, every committee meeting I've ever been to, the town clerk is here doing the computer, doing everything else. And I'm sick and tired of it. We're grown people. We talk to a lot of people out in the public, and we're doing the best we can and trying to do what's best for the town of Winthrop. And I don't think we need anybody telling us what we're going to talk about or what we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else? Any other commission members have any questions for Attorney Saucier?
Yes, I do. Referring to Article 2, Section 210, related to vacancies in council.
Yes.
Okay. My question is this. If a council person was elected, but has failed over a certain period of time to attend meetings, and we're talking about months, is that considered a vacancy?
So the answer is no. A vacancy is actually defined under state law. And let me just pull up the statute so I can read it specifically for you. And only the voters can, since counselors are elected, there are no removal provisions that are allowed, right? So other than a potential recall, if you have a recall ordinance, that would be the way to do that. But vacancy vacancy is defined. I'm sorry, I didn't have that statute in front of me, so I was just trying to find
That's
get that
okay.
in front of me. Yeah, read it exactly the way it reads. And you can ask your question while I'm looking for it. Your
So
follow-up.
I guess my understanding is
I got
that
it,
you
yeah.
could become elected as a council member, but never attend a single meeting for the entire term that you're elected, and that would be tolerable?
Unless the person is recalled. Again, you have to have a recall ordinance to recall somebody, right? So the vacancy statute is, if someone's interested in looking it up, it's in Title 30A, Section 2602. Vacancy municipal office. A vacancy municipal office may occur by the following means: non-acceptance. So in other words, you get elected, you decide not to get sworn in, you don't want the office. Resignation, obviously death. Removal from the municipality, you move out of town. Permanent disability or incompetency. That would have to be, something from a physician or some other kind of thing. Failure to qualify for the office within 10 days after written demand by the municipal officers. Failure of the municipality to elect a person, so no one gets elected, no one ran or something. And then recall pursuant to the state law. And then you can have other ways of recall if you have your own recall ordinance.
That brings me to a question, if I may.
Mhm.
You said failure to qualify. What does that mean specifically? I mean, we're expected to lead this town, and all of us have differing levels of education. All of us have different experiences. What are the qualifications?
So the qualifications are actually simple. Your qualifications are actually in Section 202. So it's just that you're a registered voter of the town and reside in the town during the term of office. And so, in other words, that would be if, for example, someone takes papers out and they get their petitions, they get elected, but then it's come to everyone's attention that they actually live in the next town over. They're a registered voter in another town. So the council could provide that they show that they actually qualify under the qualification provisions. And if they don't, within 10 days, that's what that means. So it has nothing to do with your ability or your background, like you're getting at. It doesn't have to do with that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Zeta, was there further conversation on 210 that you wanted to go over?
No,
Are you satisfied?
no, I'm satisfied. He explained it, and it is what it is.
Is there provisions in the the town council's handbook that states anything about people not showing up there?
I'm looking right at that now for the rules of town council. I haven't seen anything yet. I'll be happy to forward you the document. I thought there was a provision that if they missed more than 3 meetings, council could get together and recuse that member. I'm not sure.
I think,
Thought I saw something once upon a time too. That's why I was questioning it.
Yeah, so
I think
Bruce,
that was mostly for appointed,
Yeah.
I think that was mostly for appointments to committees and stuff. We
yeah.
just,
So Bruce, if you looked at the committee rules, you're right that provision would be in the committee rules, but they
Okay.
are not in the count, but it's not in the council
I
rules.
thought I had seen it. I wasn't exactly certain where it was. But that's satisfactory.
But that's for committees. That's not if you're a town.
that's not the council, right?
It's not the council.
No, that does bring valid point that if somebody is not physically coming or not even showing up on Zoom, someone would have to pay attention to that in order to do a recall. I wonder if there should be provision of how many meetings needs to be attended. And I don't know if that's legal or not.
You would have to put that in the charter, obviously. You don't typically see that. I'm not saying you couldn't have some sort of qualification like that. And the reason, again, the difference between a counselor and a committee member is the counselors are elected by the voters. And so the voters are the ones who get to decide whether they recall them or re-elect them. Committees are appointed by the council. And so you can remove committee members. You can remove appointed members after due process. So you have to give them a notice and a hearing to say you're about to do it. We help, if that happens, we help with that process. And one of the reasons why I see some towns removing people for the reason is because they haven't been going to meetings. So it sounds like that's actually in your committee manual or your committee bylaws.
There's a reference to it, but it's only committees. It's not council members.
I
And I
see.
would think-
Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I was on council when that lady passed away. That was on town council. Forget what her name was. I apologize for that. Yes. And I think the council chair went to Rita and explained that, she had missed numerous meetings because of health issues. And if she could, in fact, resign. And that's how that all came to be. I don't know I don't remember the outcome of it, but I know that we had discussed that. And I think you would remember you were on council at that time as well. Yeah.
I said, I don't have any specific memories of that. And I wonder if we're bordering on, mentioning a specific case, we're bordering on the edge of a personnel issue as well.
That could be, I
think probably way out of my
That would
opinion.
be best
anyway.
directed to
Move on.
Anthony.
Well, I appreciate you looking through everything.
Thank you. And happy to answer any questions again if they come up after tonight.
I'll probably think of 3 questions as soon as you sign off.
Sure. Yeah, you send them along and I'll happy to answer.
I have a question for the attorney.
Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, section 222, could you explain that to me?
Sure. Let me just get that in front of me. So just so everyone understands what it says, council not to interfere in appointments or removals. Neither the council nor any of its members shall directly or indirectly request the appointment of any person to or as a removal from office by the manager or his or her subordinates, except for the purpose of inquiry. The council's member shall deal with the administrative services solely through the manager, and neither the council nor any member thereof shall give any orders to any subordinate of the manager, either publicly or privately. So this is one of the tenets of what we call the town manager form of government. Town manager form of government is actually something by statute. So you've adopted that. That means you have a town manager. The town manager is the executive officer of the town, and the employees work under the town manager, other than any specific employee that may be that the council is given specific authority to appoint. So any of the people who work in the town who report to the town manager has that authority to discipline, for for hiring and firing, those kinds of things, and where you start to have some issues arise. And from time to time, my colleague Matt Tarasevich, who's a municipal employment lawyer, is asked to go meet with councils or the town, is if you start to have interference of a town councilor, for example, an elected official, with someone who works underneath the town manager. That creates all kinds of different personnel related issues, chain of command issues, and potentially can put the town in potential liability under various employment laws. So what that provision is talking about is that's what it's saying, right? It's saying essentially the council doesn't interfere in any of the appointments and employees that report to the town manager. If they have an issue, it would go through the town manager and not directly with that employee.
I have just one more. I think. Section 221.
Okay. Yes.
What about you, Keith?
So that's called removal of the town manager. The council may remove the manager from office for cause in accordance with the revised statutes of Maine per 30A MRS 2633. So 2633, in fact, is the town manager plan statute that I just referred to. And that specific statute is called term compensation removal and suspension. So removal and suspension provisions in the state law. So again, it's 30A section 2633 gives the municipal officers, there's a process you go through. There's due process that's afforded to the town manager. They are an appointed official. So they have a right to be told why they're being disciplined or removed or suspended. Their right to a hearing, and the hearing, after the hearing, the board can then decide what they want to do. So the board, the select, in your case, the town council, the town manager works for the town council. The town council hires the town manager, and the town council has the authority to fire the town manager, going through the right process. So this is just simply a reference to that state law provision, the town manager form of government.
Is that the only, I mean, do you have to go use a state statute? Do you have other wording in there?
You can make adjustments, but the town manager plan is seen as the basis for all town manager plans in the state. You can make adjustments. What I wouldn't recommend ever is changing the hiring and firing provisions. That really is the prerogative of the town council. The town council is hiring that person to, operate the town under their direction. And once they're hired, that the person who hires is the body that gets to fire.
I've seen some. I've worked with a lot of town managers, 70 years. Seen some good ones, and I've seen some not so good, and I've seen some that got removed. And I know it was.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know it was a hassle to remove the town manager. So I just wondering if we could put something in there that would make it a little bit easier for the council, or a vote by the public to, is there any stipulation in there where the public could bring it up for a vote?
No, there isn't, and I do not recommend that. The town manager is hired by the town council. They're not an elected official, so the town council gets to decide the terms of the employment, the compensation, discipline, removal. I would not recommend having a public vote over an employee, or whether an employee continues or not. The public votes are for the elected officials, in my view.
Could you repeat that, please?
The public gets to vote on the elected officials' terms, so that's the role, right? So you have a town council form of government, and the town voters get to vote on who's elected. The elected officials then hire and fire the town manager. That's the way the town manager plan works under Maine law.
So you're telling me the only way, if we had a bad town manager in 20 years from now, I'm not saying we do now, but I know we had one once, and it wasn't good. The poor guys went through the mill on getting rid of them, and I challenge you on that.
Okay.
I've heard of other situations where things could be done, resolutions and things could be done to bring it up to a town vote. Are you saying that you wouldn't do that? Because I heard you say something like, I wouldn't do that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I do not recommend that. No, I do not. The
In-
town manager is an appointed employee of the
And
town.
why wouldn't you do that? Could you explain to me why you would? Because the town could be sued? Is that why?
Yes, and also employees do have a right to due process under Maine law before their removal. So,
Right.
for example, right now the way it works, and I just read it to you, but if any appointed official, and it's not used to tell me, you would give them an opportunity to be heard. It could be an executive session. That employee would have the right to have a public hearing, and then the board, and then the council could decide if there's in the future. Again, we're not talking about any specifics at this point, but if that's the council gets to determine whether they give the job performance, for example, determine if the person's doing their job that they were hired to do.
Where does an employee at will law come in place? Are you familiar with that?
I am. This is there is a process to remove a town manager under state law. So you have to give that person notice in a hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yo, can I make a fast comment on the previous question? that
Sure.
Dick asked? Okay, so many of us, according to our various fields of expertise, have worked directly with department heads, assisted them in projects and advised them. And it is the one thing that we need to be extremely careful of, not to try to exercise authority as counselors to direct or control department heads. Okay, I mean, for
Right,
instance.
that's right.
And I'm not going to throw names into this conversation, but, I'm in a process right now, and every time, I'm completely careful. I give my opinion, my expertise, hand it over to the department head, and he goes with it. There's no discussion about the qualifications of the department head, whether they should be there, whether they shouldn't. None of that. That's all up to Anthony.
That's right. The town manager has the authority to appoint the various
Right, but
department
you don't
heads
want
and other
to.
officials.
You don't want to try to manipulate or steer or control a department head from your position as counselor. To help them, to advise them according to your field of expertise is a different matter.
That's
And
right.
even then you give out your advisement and then you back off and the department head goes ahead with it. Or it
Right.
goes to the town
And
manager.
to the extent that there's any feedback required, you would go through the town manager, right? So if a counselor has you would go to the town manager.
It's just a little dance we have to do not to cross that line of the
Right.
town manager.
Well, I have a question for you because you're a council member. Doesn't Anthony hire say the guy that runs a dump down there, okay? And he hires somebody, but don't you council members all vote on it, correct? Is that correct or is that not correct?
Oh,
No,
So you have no say on who he's hiring, who he's firing. He's a manager and he's a boss. Is that correct?
I can,
yeah, there was a conversation a while back about whether or not department heads are appointed, but I think we got over that, and that's completely up to the town manager pretty much. Okay.
I don't think that's relevant to what we're trying to do right now.
I don't think so either.
So I think we should move on. And I have a question, Deb or Anthony. Do you have a copy of Robert's Rules handy? I'd like to look something up.
I do. I have it in my office. I'll be right back.
All right, while we wait,
I'm a
any
page
other,
turner.
Yeah.
I
while
like
we
to-
wait, oh, sorry, Carrie. While we wait, any other questions relevant to what we're discussing tonight for Phil?
Thank you very much. It was nice chatting with you and I
Thank
wish
you.
I wish we had more opportunity as we went through this, but it is what it is. And thank you
Well,
very
good.
much for being patient with me and listening. I
Of
appreciate
course,
it.
not a problem. Yep, happy
Thank you
to
very
answer you.
much.
Hopefully it was helpful. Thank you.
You, Phil.
All right. Are you all set with me, or do you want me to stick
Hey,
around?
Carrie, does your question, do you have a question for Phil regarding Robert's rules?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing, seeing nothing online. Phil, thank you very much for your time in this matter. Really appreciate it.
Not a
And
problem.
have
Yep.
yourself a good week.
Thank you. All right. Nice to be with you guys. Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
You.
All right. Moving on to the next item, 037. If Attorney Levy could step up to the podium, please. He's going to lead a discussion on proportional ranked choice voting, something that the members voted last time to hear more about. And sir, if I could ask you to try to stay at the microphone for those of us online so we can hear you, it'd be much appreciated.
Thank you very much, members of the Charter Commission. I'm very happy to be here and be invited back. I made a presentation to you last time, and we talked a little bit about what can be a very hard subject to understand at the first time to listen to it, and the second time to listen to it, and the third time to listen to it. After I left the meeting, I found out that you were interested in, or some of you were interested in hearing a little bit more about proportional ranked choice voting. So I've had to think, what might the Charter Commission like to hear about this? Because coming back, I wasn't certain. So what I thought I'd do, if this feels like it's what you're after, is to take a little time to describe the process, how proportional ranked choice voting works, and try to explain that in as simple terms as I can. I will tell you it's a little difficult to understand, even though its goals are really good and the way that ultimately works is really good. It's just a little complicated. I've asked the town manager to distribute to you a hypothetical, which I hope to use from time to time as we go through this. And I've chosen a hypothetical mooring ordinance only because a few years ago, that was a very talked about topic in the town. And so I'm using it, but not the way it happened in this town. I'm just taking a hypothetical, significant, important issue in town and saying the town is concerned about it. And in this assumption, 65% of the people in general in this hypothetical are opposed to a mooring ordinance, and 35% of the people in the town appear to be in favor of a mooring ordinance. And a town council election's coming up, and there are going to be 3 positions elected at that election. And there are 6 candidates for those 3 positions. 3 of them are opposed to a mooring ordinance, and I've given them names. There's no number 1, no number 2, and no number 3. And 3 of the candidates are in favor of a mooring ordinance. And those candidates are yes number 1, yes number 2, and yes number 3. And there are 100 voters. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how proportional ranked choice voting deals with this hypothetical situation. And we can analogize and say that any significant issue in which a town and members of the town have 2 different views on, the process works the same. The first thing that happens is I get a ballot that looks just like the ranked choice ballots that we presently use here for President, U.S. Senate, and U.S. House. And there's something up on the, this is my very first time with a slideshow, and I have 2 slides to show you. So you look at the ballot and you see that the candidates are listed down the side. If this ballot was for this hypothetical, it would be all 6 candidates down the side. Across, as you go across, it shows which choice you want, which choice that candidate fits for you. And this slide, candidate number 2 was this voter's first choice. In this slide, candidate number 1 was this voter's second choice, and candidate number 3 was this voter's third choice. And so that's a ranked choice ballot, and that's the way they look. And it's no different if you're electing 3 people to the town council or you're electing 1 person to the United States House of Representatives. The ballot looks the same and is marked the same. After all the votes are cast, then 2 things happen. The first is that the data is collected into a database. The computer knows how many people voted for candidate number 1 as their first choice, and how many voters voted for candidate number 1 as their second choice. The computer keeps track of all of this, and it's a substantial database, because at each voter can vote differently. You and I can have the same first choice, but we might have this separate second choice. We might have the same third choice and a different fourth choice. So the computer keeps track of all of this. So there's the collection of data. The second thing that happens is a computer tabulates the data in accordance with the rules of ranked choice voting. At the end of that time, and I'll talk about the rules of ranked choice voting in a minute. At the end of that time, we know who the winners are. The basic elements of the tabulation. First, ranked choice voting establishes a threshold. How many votes does one of these 3 candidates, how many votes do each of these 6 candidates, how much do they have to get in order to be elected? And the answer is that there is a threshold. And the threshold is the amount of votes at which point you cannot lose. And it's mathematical. For example, if you have 100 voters and you're voting for 3 positions, if a candidate gets 26 votes, that candidate is elected. Because no matter how you shake the numbers around, the worst thing that's going to happen to that candidate is going to come in third, and that's a victory. So the threshold, and it's mathematically done, there's a formula, and it works consistently. Depending on how many people vote and how many seats are being elected, the threshold can be determined. In our hypothetical 100-voter, 3-seat election, 26 is the threshold. Let's see what I want to say next. So the goal of this is to see how the system works using ranked choice voting to get 3 people to the threshold. So after we establish a threshold, people vote, and the votes are counted. And the first thing that happens is that the first choice votes are counted. My first choice, your first choice, everybody's first choice is counted. And we look and see if somebody's reached the threshold. And if somebody's reached the threshold, you got 1 winner. If 2 people reach the threshold, you've got 2 winners. Now, here's a slide that I hope will help us. If you look at, if you look at these 3 boxes on the slide, each box has a dotted line that goes horizontally. That's the threshold. So if we're looking at the slide, we see on the left-hand slide that candidate no number 1 has reached and even exceeded the threshold. Candidates number yes, no number 2, yes number 1. All the other candidates did not reach the threshold. So the next thing to explain about proportional ranked choice voting is called the surplus transfer. And if you look at the left-hand box, you see that candidate no number 1, who's 1, actually exceeds the threshold. There's a surplus. And ranked choice voting has a feature called surplus transfer, which means if there's a surplus amount of votes over the threshold for my winning candidate, my candidate does not need that surplus. All my candidate needed was to reach the threshold. I feared it was mine. No problem. The surplus is transferred to my choice number 2. Each of us who voted for no number 1 as their first choice gets to have a portion of that surplus and have it transferred to their choice number 2. And my portion of the surplus goes to my second ranked candidate. It's like paying $1 for a product and finding out later that the cost was only 75 cents. And I get my 25 cents to buy the next thing that I wanted to buy. That's surplus transfer. It's good. It gives me the biggest bang for my buck. I voted. My candidate didn't need all my votes. So I get to take what's left over and give it to my next choice. My vote goes as far as it possibly can to support the candidates that I want. It helps my second choice candidate move towards the threshold. And the surplus transfer does not hurt my candidate. My candidate's already won, my first choice candidate. Now, if we look at, now let's look at the middle part of the slide. What's hypothesized on this is you see the surplus of my winning candidate. And you see how in this hypothetical, some of the surplus were people who voted for no number 2. And so some of the surplus is transferred to no number 2. And some of the surplus is attributed to people who selected no number 3 as their second choice. And you see how some of the surplus goes to no number 3. And in this hypothetical, the surplus transfer has resulted in no number 2 reaching the threshold. No number 2 is now elected. So we have those 2 people elected. Now let's continue to look at round number 2, the box in the middle, and you'll see that nobody else, even including no number 3, who got some benefit from the surplus transfer, none of those people have reached, none of those candidates have reached the threshold. So what happens next? What happens next is the next part of this election method, which is called the elimination transfer. The person, and this, by the way, is exactly like ranked choice voting that we do for single member elections in the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, and President. The person with the least amount of votes is eliminated. That person's votes are not, well, I want to get the words right here. A bunch of us voters voted for number 3, for no number, for yes number. And yes number 3, that was our first choice. Yes number 3 has now been eliminated. We get our votes back, and our votes go to our second choice. In a way, it's like surplus transfer. I don't have my vote. My surplus I get to use, and what I got back because my candidate was eliminated, I get to use on my next choice. Well said. Election experts don't like to use the term wasted vote, but you're 100% correct. My vote is not left meaningless to me. It has meaning. It now goes to my second choice.
If I want to vote, and I only want to vote for one, I don't want to vote for my second choice or my third choice. What happens if I just vote for my first choice and only my first choice?
The answer is the same for this and the other kind of ranked choice voting. It's 100% acceptable. If you don't want to vote for anybody else, you vote for number 1. If going back to the first block on our slide there, if I had voted only for number 1, I'd get my portion of the surplus, but I'd already determined that I didn't want to vote for number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, or number 6. In that particular instance, I've used up my entire vote for number 1, and the fact that I get a surplus is meaningless. I can't use it because I didn't vote for anybody else. But it's permitted. Pardon me? At that point, if you don't fully participate, then a vote or a part of a vote is what you might call wasted. I can't use my surplus because I didn't vote for anybody else. That's okay, and it's 100% permitted.
Thank you.
So in this hypothetical, I can't see, it looks like I think that's all I need. Yes, number 3 was the loser and was eliminated. And in this hypothetical, remember, yes is a person who's for the mooring ordinance. 2 no's have already been elected. But in this hypothetical, all the votes that went to yes number 3, who's been eliminated, have now gone to yes number 1. And look what's happened in the third block. Yes number 1 has reached the threshold. The election is over. We now have elected 3 candidates who have reached the threshold. Yes, ma'am.
Graph number 1, that is just tallying so everyone got to pick 3. And that is just tallying everyone who was the first pick, correct?
That is correct. The first vote is who was the first choice of every voter.
So with this, it's basically the outcome of slide number 3 is the outcome of slide number 1, basically, because if you didn't do ranked choice voting, it would still be the same by this example.
Exactly. The yes number 3 votes in round 1 are the same votes that you see in round 2 and the same votes that you see in round 3. It's how many people voted first for yes number 1. In the first round, we transferred surplus looking to see if anybody else might reach the threshold. In the second round, after we have 2 candidates elected and meet the threshold, there's nobody who reaches the threshold. Now we eliminate yes number 1's votes and transfer them to those voters' second choice. That's the way proportional ranked choice voting works. The logic is that the votes that were eliminated now get to be used. And in this hypothetical, everybody in that group voted as their second choice, yes number one. And by getting that many votes, yes number one reached the threshold. And now we've elected a town council. We've finished that election. So what do we do now? We take a look at the result of this election. We have two people who oppose the voting ordinance, the mooring ordinance elected, and one person who supports the the mooring ordinance issue. 2 and 1. Now, at the very beginning, we had 65% of the public who was opposed to the mooring ordinance. 35% of the thank you. 35% of the public who was in favor of the mooring ordinance. Let's look at the outcome of the election. 2/3 of the elected candidates are opposed to the mooring ordinance. That's 66 2/3%. That correlates incredibly well with 65% of the public being opposed to the mooring ordinance. The third person elected is for the mooring ordinance, and that's 33 1/3% of the town council. And that correlates with 35% of the public being in favor of the mooring ordinance. Sir.
But isn't this voting in aggregate instead of individual? If you have 65% of the voters who are voting, they're not voting in the aggregate. They're voting for each individual candidate.
Correct.
So actually, with 65-35, you would have elected 3 candidates anti-mooring.
You're like a half a step ahead of me in the queue because I'll get to that, but I understand exactly what you said. The answer is, in this particular election, the result is that on a significant issue in the community, the elected board has a correlation to the point of view of the public on this issue. The two are related. Now, the way we elect people in Winthrop is we get this ballot. We have these same 6 people running. We have the same issue. We have the same public opinion at 65-35. In Winthrop, we say vote for 3. So in Winthrop, what we do is what could happen is the 65% who are opposed to a mooring ordinance, they vote for no number 1, then they vote for no number 2, and they vote for no number 3. And it's not ranked choice, it's voting for 3. The result of that election is that all 3 candidates who oppose the mooring ordinance are elected. The 35% of the public has no representative on the town council. So what you have, and the problem, as I believe, is that there's 100% of the council with one point of view, and there's 35% of the public with the other point of view that has no representation on the council. And that's why proportional ranked choice voting is something that's very worthwhile considering, because it does mean that using elections which simply say, choose who you want in the order of your preference, who you think is the best, who you think is the second best, and it can be everybody that thinks like you. But choose in accordance with preference and let the math, the threshold, and the math determine who wins. And this is designed to give a substantial minority an opportunity to have a seat at the table. The present election method in Winthrop has the possibility of eliminating any of the minority from representation on the council, even if it's a substantial minority. This, by the way, can happen in towns where, or in communities where 55% of the public is opposed to a mooring ordinance and 45% is in favor of a mooring ordinance. And in a vote for 3, 100%, thanks, 100% of the council is people of a like mind who are opposed to the mooring ordinance. And 45% of the community is not represented. So that's my explanation of ranked choice voting for you. I hope it adds a little clarity about how it works. The goal is to allow people to have an effective vote, to allow people to have a vote that goes as far as it can in supporting the candidates that you support, and to come up with a result which reasonably reflects the community so that you have appropriate minority and majority participation on the council and all the good that comes from that. The good that comes from that is you hear each other's point of view, you have an opportunity to compromise, and you represent your community in proportion to what the community thinks. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to have questions from you, and I very much appreciate being given the opportunity to come back.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Levy. Any further questions for Mr. Levy at this point?
I really appreciate your time, and I think that it is definitely something for the future for all of us to think about. I think we need a little more education, and I think in time, with some patience, people understanding this better, I think it really could be a good thing.
Thank you very much. I think it's probably none of my business, but I think if I were sitting in your shoes, I would say this sounds very interesting and it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile to examine and it's worthwhile to learn more about. And if it sounds as good as Levy says, maybe we ought to do it. But it's a pretty significant educational effort. It requires a lot of time and thought. You folks are under a time-limited obligation here. My hope is that I'm a very practical person, and I don't expect the next charter to have this provision in it. What I do hope is that this begins to spur interest in this important matter so that we can go from there. I thank you all for your time. It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it as well. Anthony, I see we've got 3 messages, I believe, unless I'm seeing this wrong.
That's
I'm wondering
correct. I'll read them to the group real quick.
Thank you.
Okay, so Joe says, if the councilors do not act on a bad town manager, the voters can recall councilors and vote in ones who will. That's related to the prior discussion. Joe also says, does a person need a majority of the votes / ballots that make it to the last calculation or the initial vote to include the wasted votes? I'm not sure I understand that either. And then Mike had 2 comments. Most people want the person or persons that they vote for to be elected. This leads to a large margin of error, does it not? Will the election committee be interested in this counting process? So
I can try to answer those 2 quickly. The entire goal in a proportional ranked choice voting is not a majority. It's the threshold. Once you reach the threshold, you cannot lose. So a person does not need a majority of any round of voting in order to be elected. The second thing, I think, the second question, I think, is saying, because this is complex, doesn't that leave room for error? And the answer is, if the system is set up correctly, it works by pure math.
There,
Computers,
Pardon me?
runs the computers.
The computers are run by your town clerk.
There was one more question, I believe. Chat.
Oops.
The town clerk would hire a company to do that, that would be recommended by the Secretary of State.
That's how it happens in most places. Most places don't need to train their people on operating this software. There's two different kinds of software that are involved. One is the one that accumulates and aggregates the votes into a spreadsheet, and the other then does the ranked choice tabulation. That's both done securely. It's both done by people that do this for a business. The software that does this stuff is prepared by the same people that make the scanners that we use.
ranked choice voting is on the federal level already being used. Is that correct?
Maine uses ranked choice voting for the federal level. Single seat ranked choice voting. This is when people are working for voting for one candidate. At that point, there's a threshold, 50% plus one. You build towards a majority winner in ranked choice voting, single seat.
It has been successful, yes?
Pardon me?
It's been successful.
It works.
Right.
It's been successful in Maine.
How much are the software licenses?
Pardon me?
The software licenses.
That's the best question of the day. Because this is something, although proportional ranked choice voting has been around for a really long time, it was first invented by a mathematician in 1855. So this is not new stuff. However, it hasn't received a whole lot of use. It's growing now in the United States. So all this stuff is, all the software stuff and all the programs are coming together. In Maine, the city of Portland is paying a license fee. The city of Portland has proportional ranked choice voting for certain elections. They're paying a license fee annually, and it's a few $1,000s. And I've been told that because it's new between the vendor and the town, that it's the subject of negotiations and might get more expensive or cheaper. The town,
Sure, it'll get more expensive.
nothing gets cheaper. The town of Westbrook was able to, like in the old days, you buy the software for a fixed price. It's like with the Office program that's on my computer. I used to buy it and have it for one price. Now I have to pay a license fee every month to keep it going. But in any event, Westbrook bought this software and got apparently a spectacular good deal from the vendor for reasons that I don't understand. And they paid a few $1,000s and are able to use this program, use this voting method for a substantial period of time. The costs will be better known as more communities get into this, and there may be, maybe the state will help communities by striking a deal with vendors that towns can use, but the future is going to better tell what these costs are. Of course, there's costs in every election, and there's costs in one of these elections.
Thank you, Mr. Levy. I think
Okay.
we need to move on.
I'm just going to butt in real quick before I have to step away. I'm just going to read. Also, Joe had another comment that said this should be a single question to the voters, not to be voted in a packaged ballot question. I agree. I am a huge proponent of ranked choice voting because I think it makes it harder to manipulate elections that where certain interests want to push one side over the other, where you can currently do that by pushing either type of voting questions that might bring out a certain population and whatnot. but I do think it's probably not something that we're going to be able, or probably should put into the process right now. I would say that maybe we would, and I'd have to ask Anthony, is this something that we can end up putting out to voters that can then be added to the charter, or would it, or could it just be what we adopt?
So to answer your question, Aaron, yes, I think that it could be done either way. I think the stronger way is to include it in a charter, a change in how the town elects people, but it could be done by a vote of the council.
Okay, thank you.
Just ask the question.
Yes, if you could just scroll up on the questions from Joe, please. There's one there that nobody has addressed. And can town councilors do not act on bad town managers? The vote can recall councilors, and the vote in one who will. There are certain stopgaps with our managerial form of government here in Winthrop, and town council has checks and balances. Part of that check is that town council is responsible for hiring the town manager. There is nothing that we as taxpayers can do to change that process. And theoretically, the only way to do it is to tell your town councilors how disappointed you are. And maybe after 15 or 20 emails and to threaten that they won't be elected, they will act on something that's presented by the general public in that regard. As far as town councilors getting involved, I served 9 years on town council. I don't think I can recall a single moment when a councilor got actively involved in a department head. And there's a unwritten rule of staying in your lane. You let Anthony or the town manager deal with employees. If council has a problem with the town manager, they can address that individually with them at that time, because the town manager works directly with town council. So anything else, I think it's pretty clearly spelled out. And I'm sure any of your town councilors will be happy to address that on an individual basis, Joe, if you have questions.
All right. Thank you, Bruce.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Bruce. All right. All right. So I think we need to move on to the next step, item 038, discussion of next steps. And Anthony, I guess the next step would be for you and the town clerk to prepare a report of our work here for the past 6 or 7 months, and then deliver it to us for review.
Yeah, so if I may, and Gil and Aaron, I will email this to you. I'm going to pass out, we've already begun this work. This is the introduction to the report that Gil just mentioned.
All right. And so again, it's my understanding that after the commission reviews the report, we need to vote to accept it and or make changes to it, and then accept it, final acceptance before it goes to the town council. Is that correct?
Yes. So here is what we hope will happen. By the end of the week, you will have the full report, because the rest of the report will be essentially a red line version of all the changes that you have approved from the current charter. I'm going to send that to you this week so that you'll have ample time to review the report. Although, again, what you'll be looking at mostly are just red line versions of the clean copy that you received as part of your agenda packet tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for March the 10th. We will come present you with that preliminary report, and under the law, we have to publicize it to the public, so we will do that as well. And you will consider approving the report. So there may be changes that you want to make to it. I'm hoping that one of the reasons I'm going to present it to you early is so that you can communicate any significant changes that you'd like to see made to the report. Ideally, we'd like to approve the report, even if we have to make some tweaks to it at that March 10th meeting. The council will then meet on March the 16th, at which that report would be presented to the council so that the council can then schedule the election in June. So in June, we're having the primary elections. It's going to be a high-profile primary with candidates from both parties running for their party's nomination for governor. That's going to be a high turnout election. And so with the timelines that we're working on, and our town clerk has reviewed this this afternoon, if we can approve the report on March 10th, present it to the council on March 16th, that will give the council enough time to call the election for June 9th. And then the clerk will have all of the posting requirements that she will need in order to affect that election. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Question for you, Gil. What if
Sir?
this thing gets voted down, then what happens? Do we start all over, or will there be another group formed? And
I suspect that there'll be a different group that's formed, because I believe that once we present the report to the town council, our commission disbands at that point. And again, the attorney or Anthony or the town clerk might have a better idea here, but
We would maintain the charter that we currently have until some future point that the council decides to call an election for another charter commission.
Not automatic.
I beg your pardon?
It's not automatic. The council would have to decide to start over.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I think.
all right. Any further discussion on that? Moving on to item 039, consideration of approval of the minutes of the January 13, 2026 commission meeting. I need a motion.
motion, we accept the motion as read.
Second. All right.
Second, Gil.
All those in favor? All right. And that's unanimous, because I'm in the favor of that also. And any comments from the public? Again, I can't see who's in the audience. So Vice Chair Zato, is there anybody from the audience that has any further public comments on tonight's work?
Nope, they all giving me a thumbs up.
All right. So at this point, I'll somebody needs to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to, go ahead, Bruce.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that?
All those in favor? Unanimous, mostly, I think. Carrie, you're for it? All right. Meeting adjourned, folks. Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it.